Morning. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. A warm welcome to the second open consultation of the UN's Commission on Science Technology for Development, the CSTD, on the WSIS Plus 20 review as a hybrid high-level event of UNCTAD eWeek 2023. My name is Ana Cristina das Neves, and I'm the chair of the CSTD. And today I'm here to moderate this event entitled WSIS Plus 20, Successes, Failures and Future Expectations, a partnership between CSTD, ITU, UNESCO and UNDP, all key actors of the WSIS. The launch of the open consultations on the WSIS Plus 20 review took place during the 18th Internet Governance Forum, held in Kyoto, Japan, in October this year. So it was the first open consultation. And today we are embarking on the second open consultation, and we look forward to an in-depth dialogue with all of you among different stakeholders, including e-business community, as we are here during the eWeek, so on the WSIS implementation and its future. As you know, the WSIS vision is to establish a people-centered, inclusive and development-oriented information society for harnessing the potential of information and communication technologies for sustainable development. To what extent and how has the vision of a people-centered, inclusive and development-oriented information society evolved over the past 20 years since WSIS? How will ongoing trends and emerging technologies, particularly artificial intelligence, impact progress towards human development and the Sustainable Development Goals? Moreover, how can these trends enable or hinder the realization of the WSIS vision? What measures should be taken to advance international cooperation, including in terms of governance, to leverage emerging technologies for sustainable development in economic, social, environment, and cultural dimensions? Those are some of the questions we invite you today to consider. If I put them simply, the question could be, how much progress have we made towards that vision and what challenges remain in the way ahead? Those are also issues that the CSTD has been addressing in implementation of its ECOSOC and General Assembly mandate to review the implementation of the WSIS outcomes. That has been concluded through, included through annual reports to the ECOSOC and the General Assembly, and the contribution of inputs to the WSIS Plus 10 review back in 2015 to the General Assembly. As you may remember, the General Assembly resolution A/70/125, adopted on 16 December 2015, called for a high-level meeting in 2025 to review the overall implementation of the outcomes of the World Summit on Information Society, known nowadays as WSIS Plus 20 review. For the WSIS review, the ECOSOC adopted the resolution E/Res/2023/3 in June that requests the CSTD to collect inputs from member states, all facilitators and other stakeholders, and to organize during its 27th session in April 2024 and its 28th session in 2025, substantive discussions on the progress made in the implementation of the outcomes of the WSIS during the past 20 years and report to the ECOSOC and General Assembly. The CSTD members adopted a roadmap that you're already looking at. So this roadmap was adopted during the annual session of the CSTD back in March this year to guide the CSTD's work on WSIS Plus 20 review. So here you have a snapshot of the roadmap. And it includes open consultations at regional and global levels by CSTD or in partnership with other UN agencies and UN regional commissions like this one today, and a survey questionnaire to all stakeholders, governments, international organizations, private sector, technical and academia communities, and civil society at large, as well as written inputs from contributors to the regular UN Secretary General's annual report on the WSIS. The preparation of a synthesis report by the CSTD Secretariat based on these consultations and written inputs to the questionnaire, which they will all be submitted to the discussions at the annual session of the CSTD in 2023 and in 2024 and in 2025. A report of the CSTD of these discussions, which will be then submitted through ECOSOC to the General Assembly as input to its review in 2025. The roadmap is ambitious, but its full accomplishment depends on the availability of financial resources for these purposes. I want to emphasize that an integral part of the CSTD WSIS Plus 20 review is the engagement of all stakeholders in open consultations like today's, and in the survey questionnaire that the CSTD Secretariat are conducting until late 24. Today, we are meeting during UNCTAD's eWeek. E-business, e-commerce, and the digital economy concern important aspects of the WSIS outcome. The WSIS action lines acknowledge that efforts should be made in the creation of an enabling environment of e-business and adoption of related policies to support the participation of developing countries and their enterprises in the emerging global digital economy. However, it is important to remember that the WSIS process covers all aspects of digitalization beyond the economic sphere, including international cooperation, connectivity, capacity building, cultural diversity, and very importantly, its ethical dimension. The objective of today's event is to enable a candid and open dialogue drawing on the collective wisdom, perspectives, and experiences of the various stakeholders. The insights and recommendations stemming from today's interactions will undoubtedly contribute to the synthesis report to be prepared by the CSTD Secretariat, which is intended to shape substantive discussions at the WSIS CSTD WSIS Plus 20 review sessions as mandated by the ECOSOC. Our session is structured as follows. Ms. Shamika Siriman, Head of the CSTD Secretariat and Director of Division on Technology and Logistics, UNCTAD, will deliver opening remarks. She will then be followed by special invitees who will share with us their views and insights. Thereafter, I will open the floor to both in-person attendees and remote participants for an open discussion under my moderation, including judicious time management by me. I'd like to remind remote participants that they should request the floor through the hand-raising feature on the Zoom platform. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to invite now Ms. Shamika Siriman, Director of the Division on Technology and Logistics of UNCTAD and Head of the CSTD Secretariat, to make opening remarks. Mrs. Siriman, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Honorable CSTD Chair and dear my friend too. Good morning and good afternoon, and also a good evening to everyone here and online. And let me also join our chair in welcoming you to the second CSTD Open Consultation on the WSIS Plus 20 review. And I'm sure, I think, Anna, you mentioned these facts, I'm sure we all agree that the WSIS vision, I mean really a noble vision of a people-centered, inclusive, and development-oriented information society remains as valid as ever. And as we all acknowledge the profound transformation that ICTs or digitalization, to use the current term, has enabled, we are equally concerned by how much remains to be done for that vision to become a reality. So there's an enormous amount of unfinished business there. I mean, you have heard in these rooms, 1/3 of people in the world are not yet connected to the internet. And if you look at the least developed countries, just 36% of their people are connected. Only 1/3 are connected. So for them, there is no digital technology or digital economy. And now these devices are also becoming serious development devices. And I'm not even going to talk about the breathtaking technological change since the WSIS was created. I don't think we had smartphones. Maybe we had a very rudimentary mobile phones then. So I will not even go there. You have heard the stories in these rooms. As our CSTD chair said, that today the CSTD is having its second open consultation in which you can help shape those responses and you can help shape the aspirations for the WSIS and where have we come, what do we need to do, and what does the future look like, and what options have to shape this future so that these digital economies will work for the people and the planet. Now, this first CSTD consultation at Kyoto just a month ago at the 18th Internet Governance Forum was quite successful, and we delivered it in partnership with our sister agencies, ITU, UNESCO, and UNDP. There were 180 participants from all walks of life. Gitanjali, you remember the room was full. Anna, you remember there was only standing room there. And they represented governments, the private sector, international organizations, civil society, the technical community, and academia. They expressed unanimously the interest of continuing the WSIS process beyond 2025, because honestly, the message was the aspirations have not been met, and there's unfinished business. So now we want to hear from a different community of interest to the WSIS, because we are gathering this information as we do the review and the follow-up to the WSIS. We are going as many as places as possible, and our budgets allow us to do. So if we have learned anything from WSIS, I mean, we have learned many things, but one very important thing is that our multi-stakeholder approach is essential in informing and enhancing the WSIS process towards the achievement of our shared goals. And also, in fact, WSIS sets a very good practice for the GDC and also the summit of the future that we are working towards. I mean, that multi-stakeholder approach has to be kept intact if we want to handle the digital, in this emerging massive digital world. So at the CSTD Secretariat, we are very proud of the partnership we have established with our key WSIS players, as I mentioned, ITU, UNESCO, and UNDP in this review process. We want to make sure that the review process of WSIS is a one UN effort. And as an example of this interagency collaboration, we have also jointly circulated a questionnaire to seek stakeholder inputs for the WSIS Plus 20 review. Anna, you put that on the screen already. Please, this is very important. We need your voice, because otherwise it's going to be a desk study of the follow-up and the review. So please take time and put your inputs into that document. And let me end here, and I'm really looking forward to a productive discussion. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you, Shamika. Thank you very much for all the overview that you gave to this discussion. So now we have these special invitees, and I will start with Mr. Sabri Bastomi, Permanent Representative of Tunisia to the United Nations Office at Geneva. Mr. Ambassador, please. Thank you.
Merci.
Thank you very much indeed, Madam Chair. I thank you for giving me the floor. Thanks also go to my dear friend, Madam Shalika, and I do thank her for those very well-made preliminary comments. I'm honoured to be involved in this second consultation that has been convened by the CSTD, and that is to say the Commission on Science and Technology for Development. As you know, we are taking stock of where we are 20 years on from the first WSIS. As you know, Tunisia is deeply committed to WSIS, and we remain very closely attached to it. We were involved in the summit back in 2005, and we are still seeking to give effect to the vision of WSIS and to put into practice its recommendations. We now live in a different world where we have social media platforms, AI, cloud computing, and blockchains. Nonetheless, the WSIS vision remains relevant if we are to promote connectivity, inclusion, and protection of human rights and cultural diversity. We have a ministry for ICT, and we were very much involved in the Kyoto consultations, and we will remain involved throughout the review process. I wish to commend the CSTD for the mandate it has grasped and for the key role it has played in promoting a consultative and inclusive approach. To come back to the issue before us and seeking to be as inclusive as possible, I would like to share with you and with other participants a number of points. These are areas that I think could be further discussed, developed, and indeed that I think could be part of strategic discussion in a number of bodies, especially in Africa. Development of ICTs for development, for sustainable development in Africa, implies that we have a multifaceted approach. We need to develop ICT infrastructure. We need robust infrastructure that can improve internet connectivity, that can provide secure, stable access to electricity and to communications devices at affordable prices. And that's especially vital for rural areas. Further, we need to develop education and training programs. We need to roll out comprehensive programs involving education as to how to use ICTs so that people develop the skills they need to benefit from technology in the service of their development. Of course, this includes creating a digital culture and ensuring appropriate vocational training in areas linked to ICTs. Then there's another key point that I believe we must bear in mind, and that is promoting innovation and entrepreneurship. We need an environment conducive to innovation. We need to support startups to give them the resources they need, incubators, accelerators, and funding that is appropriate for technological initiatives. My next point, the next point I believe to be important, is that of enhancing digitization of public services, services provided by governments. Here we need to use digital platforms and make them more accessible and user-friendly for the general public. This may involve electronic governance, tax systems available online, as well as digital identification systems. We need to ensure also that we think about how best to use ICTs in health and agriculture so that we can improve the services we provide in the health sector and improve agricultural and farming practices. This may involve telemedicine, long distance patient appointments, information systems for farmers, access to markets for farmers through technology. And as you well know, in Africa, this is something for which there is a crying need today, but we have made huge progress. And thanks to internet connectivity, we have found some very valuable solutions to many of the problems that African farmers face. And people can stay where they are, can farm, can earn a living from farming, thanks to the kind of information they can now get and use. We also need to ensure that we can guarantee easy access to information. Again, this involves using ICTs to disseminate knowledge, to keep people up to date with what's going on, and to educate them. It also includes mobile technology for information sharing. Here, we need to do more. We also need to promote public-private partnerships by encouraging cooperations involving governments, private sector bodies, NGOs, and international organizations. They all need to work together in order to achieve the SDGs and using ICTs to do so. We need to ensure that we use technology also for environmental protection and monitoring. We need to find solutions that will allow us to manage natural resources, to monitor climate change, and to find sustainable practices that can be used to benefit all. we need to promote the adoption of digital financial services, for instance, mobile banking, mobile payment services. All of this can foster financial inclusion and economic growth. And that's not all. We also need to craft cybersecurity measures and policies that are strong and robust and that can guarantee protection against cybercrime, against cyber threats, and guarantee data confidentiality. We need to encourage and foster cooperation and knowledge sharing among all African countries so that together we can overcome the challenges we face and share among ourselves best practices benefiting from ICTs in order to ensure that we can all enjoy the fruits of sustainable development. We do need to work together. Governments need to work together on this and reach out to a whole range of stakeholders. Bearing that in mind, we particularly commend the commitment entered into at the high-level summit of 88 heads of states and governments from French-speaking countries. This was the Djerba summit in November 22, and it was devoted to connectivity and diversity, digital technology, a vector for development and solidarity in the French-speaking world. As you know, the outcome of that summit really did more than we had ever hoped and went beyond the French-speaking world. And I think that the outcome is something that can certainly be used to benefit long-term development for all. We need to ensure that we recognise the importance of ICTs for Africa's long-term development, and we also need to recognise the importance of the review process for WSIS, which was back in 2025, in particular to ensure that developing countries can enjoy the fruits of the digital era and flourish in that era. So I know we have a lot of challenges, but we also have very high expectations and aspirations in Africa, and I hope I've managed to share some of them with you now. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur l'Ambassadeur.
Thank you very much, Sir Ambassador of Tunisia. That's right, it wasn't just an African vision you were showing, it was a global vision, so thank you very much.
And now I will give the floor to Mr. Boni Pugianto, Director for Digital Economy from the Ministry of Communication and Information Technology from Indonesia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I would like to thank UNCTAD, WSIS, and CSTD Secretariat for the invitation to Indonesia to represent our Ministry of Communication and Informatics about our view about WSIS plus 20. I'm here, my name is Ikhwan Nasution, I'm head of the Center of International Affairs in the Ministry. I represent Mr. Boni because he cannot come to this session. So, like Mr. Ambassador already mentioned, Indonesia is also very committed to SIS. We join every meeting from 2003 until this year, 2023, and we involve in almost all the activities from the beginning. So, in today's session, I would like to share insight on how the government of Indonesia view of the evaluation of ICT for development, as well as other topics that related to the implementation of the WSIS vision and outcomes. We know that the worldwide digital transformation is progressing at a tremendous speed. Currently, more than 5 billion individuals worldwide are using internet as the impact of the rapid spread of ICT infrastructure. This condition has indirectly reshaped the way we live, and forcing regulators like Ministry of Indonesia and the policymakers to anticipate as well as to adapt with both challenges and opportunities brought by emerging technologies. Subsequently, digitalization becomes one of the main factors in the development of the worldwide economy. Not only it increases labor productivity, it also creates new demand for new goods and services, as well as improving the quality of value of the overall economy. Thus, making Indonesia's digital economy has grown significantly in recent years, from 41 billion US dollar in 2019 to 77 billion US dollars in 2022. It is important for all of us to create a safe and inclusive digital economy in order to get benefits for all. In such spirit, we believe in relentless effort to an accelerated, inclusive, and sustainable digital transformation. And to support this growth, Indonesia has taken bold steps by investing in the development of ICT, such as digital infrastructure, which includes fiber optic network, satellite 5G technology, cloud computing, and many more. The rapid development of emerging technologies, such as artificial intelligence, has impacted the enhancement of digital activities by simplifying and expediting decision-making process and service delivery to customers. A good regulatory platform needs to be established and exercised truly to ensure that AI decisions and its automated activity are based on the mindfulness of the operators and bounded by legal framework. For the domestic approach related to AI, Indonesia is currently in the progress of implementing national study of AI, including its practicality in benefit for the economy. Now, Indonesia has established a national strategy of AI 2022 to 2045, and also in the process of to make a circular letter from the minister about the AI ethic. This AI national strategy cater holistic aspect of ethic and policy, data and infrastructure, research and talent development of AI toward national benefit. Under international arrangement, Indonesia has also been actively involved in discussion of AI and sustainable development, applications, challenges, and opportunities. For example, in ITU, to exercise the role of AI in supporting sustainable development goals. We found that a fraud in AI output mechanism are likely malicious output and including scam, which are threatening the business activities. Malicious and deceiving activities such as online payment threats, data breach, personal data leakage, unsolicited commercial spam, and social engineering resulting from AI mechanism have threatened business conduct and reduced business confidence. AI also can be one of the factors that can make disinformation and misinformation in developing countries. For example, in Indonesia, during the critical times like in elections, is also very have a bad impact in Indonesia. Therefore, in the terms of hindering or enabling the WSES vision, we believe we need more discussions to ensure whether emerging technologies such as AI brings more benefit than drawbacks to the implementation of WSIS vision. At the last WSS Forum, the 2023, Indonesia has mentioned also inclusivity in digital space as one of the focus that is being pursued by our ministry in order to fulfill equal right for people with disabilities. According to Indonesian Statistics Survey in 2022, the number of people with disabilities in Indonesia reached around 22.5 million people. Unfortunately, this trend isn't matched by the level of productivity of persons with disabilities in Indonesia. To have that issue, like Mr. Ambassador also already mentioned, Indonesia have initiated several digital literacy programs focusing on help people with disabilities, in which the aim is to increase the awareness of persons with disabilities on the importance of digital competence and to equip them with appropriate digital skills. One example of activities is a podcast class for people with disabilities, where we invite panelists with disability background to discuss and provide a better understanding of groups of people with disabilities. However, issues related to the people with disabilities cannot be separated from human rights and freedom from discrimination. Therefore, this particular focus, along with other inclusivity effort, will definitely need continuous help from the community to create a friendly environment for others. We have talked about many aspects regarding to the implementation of the WSIS vision and outcomes. However, I'm sure we all aware that there are still other factors that need to be improved. Through cooperation and collaboration with each other, I believe we can reach the people-centered, inclusive, and development-oriented information society. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Ikhwan.
Ikhwan.
In Arabic. Ikhwan.
Ikhwan.
Yes.
Mahmoud
Nasution.
Nasution.
Yes.
And thank you very much for your insights, and looking forward for your inputs to the questionnaire. So now I will give the floor to Mr. Jorge Cancio, Deputy Director of the International Relations Team, Federal Office of Communications, Switzerland. Over to you, Jorge.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anna, and hello, everybody. Good morning. Excellencies, colleagues. In 2003, this people-centered, inclusive, and development-oriented information society was a central part of the WSIS vision adopted here in Geneva, a work that was then continued in Tunis 2 years later in 2005 with the Tunis Agenda. 20 years later, we live in a different world where digital is part and parcel of our lives and societies. Yet, this vision, as Shamika said, for instance, remains absolutely valid. This approach can be found throughout the key streams of work envisaged by WSIS, such as empowerment of all stakeholders, inclusivity, sustainable development, and the respect for human rights. Still, as digital pervades us and our societies, the shortcomings in inclusion become more and more apparent, triggering the need of ever stronger efforts to address the different digital divides in a dynamic and concerted fashion. And as we enter into the second and third generations of digital natives, which mostly are not present in this room, but anyways, digital divides become just divides, just social divides, just divides in general. This brings me to the development-oriented approach, which is more relevant than ever and calls for further aligning WSIS with the UN instruments on sustainable development goals as guiding instruments in this field. Digital technologies and solutions offer tools that can be used in addressing major issues identified by the SDGs, but of course they have to be used in the right manner. Therefore, we must continue working together and ensure that the benefits of our digital present and future are effectively and meaningfully accessible to all. Because today our society is digital, our lives are as well, and unless all are included and their development is enabled, we will be leaving too many behind. Regarding the question of emerging technologies, including artificial intelligence, of course, the rise of AI and other technologies is greatly impacting our lives and with them the SDGs in terms that are still to be fully understood. As any new technology, AI has some very promising features that have the potential of serving humanity. On the other hand, also as any other key technology, AI has the power to disrupt, be it because of biased data, biased programming, unintended consequences on our job markets, or by transferring human decision-making to opaque algorithmic systems. Such risks are being taken very seriously around the world. Alas, the speed of rulemaking at the regional and global levels hardly matches the speed of technology. Hence, we have to be creative, adaptive, and focus on ground rules for the further deployment of AI and related technologies. To mitigate the risks of AI, rules and safety guardrails are necessary. In our view, regulation of AI must focus on the possible negative and undesirable effects of its use rather than the technology itself. And of course, international law, in particular international humanitarian law and human rights law, must be respected and applied with regards to AI. We have different good initiatives going on. For instance, the negotiations in the Council of Europe regarding a convention on AI, negotiations that are open to all interested countries beyond Europe, but also the very useful work being done by the AI for Good Summit every year here in Geneva, organized by our colleagues from the ITU. The WSIS Plus 20 review, in turn, taking into account the GDC process outcomes, should be an opportunity to update our WSIS framework into a WSIS Plus, addressing emerging tech such as AI and getting our WSIS cooperation tools up to date. Switzerland shares the vision that an inclusive multi-stakeholder model is really the most effective and sustainable approach to digital governance of all these emerging technologies. The WSIS architecture, including the leading UN departments, agencies, as well as the WSIS Forum, and especially also the UN Internet Governance Forum, offer useful platforms and mechanisms to further international cooperation. And the Secretary General's roadmap for digital cooperation, which is just 3 years old, made important recommendation in this regard by endorsing, amongst other things, the development of the IGF into an IGF+. To finalize, we believe it's key to strengthen such structures bottom-up, ensuring solid ownership by all stakeholder groups. As mentioned before, the WSIS Plus 20 review is a key opportunity to modernize and update our international cooperation architecture into a WSIS Plus, fit for the task of enabling global progress in putting digital at the service of the improvement of our lives and that of future generations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jorge, for presenting the current global landscape where the WSIS vision is still relevant, and to present the current challenges in a very challenging world. Now I'll give the floor to Ms. Sulina Nur Abdullah, Chief of Strategic Planning and Membership Department at ITU. Over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. Well, much has been said by the previous speakers about how in the 20 years since the inception of WSIS, we have witnessed the transformative power of ICTs. Connectivity has become the lifeblood of progress on Earth and in space. You just have to look at the growth of internet users. From a modest 12.4% of the global population in 2003, which was 785 million people, to 67% in 2023, which is 5.4 billion people. From the perspective of the UN's Specialized Agency for ICTs, with progress comes the responsibility of addressing the risks of harms while doing our best to ensure that the advantages of technology, including new and emerging, is beneficial to users and are shared equitably. WSIS stands as a strong example of global digital cooperation in action for over 2 decades now, with its action lines withstanding the test of time. They are still relevant today to provide a robust framework for digital moving forward. And since its inception, WSIS has grown into a huge multi-stakeholder global community, not only at the international level, but also as a grassroots movement. And it continues to expand with each passing year. The WSIS Plus 20 review is the opportunity for us to, first, take stock, to consider how best WSIS should further adapt so that it will continue to address new and emerging digital challenges and opportunities. Secondly, to consider how the different processes complement each other, WSIS, GDC, Summit of the Future, for instance. And together, as you have mentioned, Madam Chair, UNESCO, UNDP, CSTD, UNDESA, and ITU, we are collaborating in a joint preparatory process for the WSIS Plus 20 review to leverage our complementarities and avoid duplication. All stakeholders have a role to play. The strength of WSIS lies in its multi-stakeholder approach, and it is through collaboration that we will be able to address the complexities of and challenges of technology. It's important for all stakeholders to feed our learnings from the WSIS framework into complementary UN processes. It's been acknowledged that there is already a lot of good work happening within the WSIS ecosystem, including the IGF and the WSIS Forum, that should be leveraged as we move towards the Summit of the Future. Next year, ITU will co-host the WSIS Plus 20 Forum high-level event together with the Swiss Confederation. This will be co-organized by ITU, UNESCO, UNDP, and UNCTAD. Please mark the dates, 27th to 31st of May 2024 in Geneva. This high-level event will provide a platform for multi-stakeholder discussions, taking stock of achievements, key trends, challenges, and opportunities since the Geneva Plan of Action in 2003. The outcomes of this high-level event will be submitted for consideration during the UN General Assembly overall review in 2025, making the WSIS Plus 20 review process pivotal in ensuring the continued significance of this process. Chair, Shamika mentioned earlier that 2.6 billion people remain offline today. One of the reasons why is because of the lack of affordability. In 2023, although both data-only mobile broadband and fixed broadband have become more affordable in all regions and for all income groups, the cost continues, however, to be a major barrier to connectivity and a key factor driver in the global digital divide. In low-income economies, the median price of an entry-level mobile broadband subscription amounts to 8.6% of average income, a share 22 times larger than in high-income countries, which is at 0.4%. So clearly, there is a lot more to be done to address this and other challenges to get these 2.6 billion people online. Chair, the ITU is committed to connecting the world, and we intend to harness the momentum of the WSIS Plus 20 review towards a digital future that is inclusive, sustainable, and beneficial for all, which is what I have heard also from previous speakers. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for your insight speech. Now I'll give the floor to Ms. Pauline Carlucchi, co-founder and CTO of Mavu Africa in Nairobi. Over to you, please.
Thank you so much. I think I'll give the perspective of, as a business person, innovating in the digital space. Some of the development that we've seen is very positive. A lot of entrepreneurs are able to provide digital services just by virtue of all this development being available. A lot of SMEs have been able to provide work online. A lot of businesses have been able to sell through social media and different channels online. So we do see development and people being able to start businesses and being able to provide. A lot of businesses have been able to transform and start selling online through e-commerce platforms. So channels like e-commerce, technology has been able to provide and open channels for people to sell, either through WhatsApp, as simple as social media, as simple as through e-commerce. As much as this penetration is not as high, especially when you look at e-commerce channels, we do see an opportunity for businesses in the continent to be able to use technology and come up with businesses and be able to provide for their families. Again, there's been an increase in digital payments. From Africa, most of the people are used to paying through cash, but because of technology and development in this space, there's been a lot of innovation, especially when it comes to mobile money. People are taking up payments through mobile. We do see a lot of startups, especially in the space of fintech. A lot of businesses are developing payments through wallets. A lot of businesses are coming up with business to solve the key problems that we have in our country. We do have edtech startups, we do have agri-tech startups, and all these businesses are using technology to be able to drive the digital economy and also to be able to come up with solutions to the problems that we have locally. But as much as a lot of businesses are being able to utilize the digital economy to come up with solutions, there are a couple of challenges that we face, especially when there's technology available, but the ecosystem in which this technology is going to run does not complement. So there's not enough infrastructure for people to be able to come up with businesses because, again, can they afford the internet? They don't have access to mobile. The infrastructure that supports e-commerce, especially if we're talking about logistics, it's been mentioned in more than one of couple of sessions today that it is very expensive to ship. It's actually more expensive to ship a product than the cost of the product. So again, the infrastructure that supports this digital economy, and especially if you're talking about e-commerce, does not develop at the same level in which policies or a lot of advancement is being made, especially if you look at the African context. Again, when it comes to, does the government also support some of these startups or some of these businesses that are being developed and are keeping up with the technology advancements that is being made? And I have to highlight that one of the challenge again is that there is a lack of trust with a lot of information being put online. One of the reasons why we still have high cash on delivery, especially when it comes to in Africa, is that because people are not so trustworthy of whether they can be able to get something once they pay for it online. So it is a real problem that there's still an issue when it comes to trust and the information that you key in online and the payments that you make online. As much as other countries may have advanced, and this is something that is probably not a big issue, it's still a challenge when it comes to people being able to continue participating within the digital economy and innovate and use the solutions. And again, as I mentioned before, is that the process of moving and tracking products and also all the information that involves moving a product from one location to another is not something that's available. A lot of the times, as a business, as an innovator, the information that you have when it comes to moving products or exporting products is not the information that is available from the other countries. And here I'm talking about issues of customs, issues of taxes. The information you have as a business is always very different from what you get once products get to the other side. So it is an issue, especially if we're looking at driving commerce and e-commerce being a very important part of the digital economy. And some of the drivers that I will propose and are very key for us to keep driving the digital economy, like it's been mentioned with a couple of the speakers before me, is that there is still very low internet penetration. As we are still looking to have a lot of businesses and SMEs innovate within the digital economy, the penetration is still quite low in a couple of countries. And if the penetration is there, the cost of internet is still very expensive. So as much as you're looking at us growing the digital economy, that is still very low, and that being the backbone of us being able to grow the digital economy, we may need to start or push the penetration of both mobile and internet. Again, Africa is a space where we do have a lot of startups. We do have a lot of labor for people to innovate and work on these startups, but there is a challenge of you have the skill, you have the knowledge, but to run a startup, you do need, you're building a startup within an ecosystem. So does the government understand that we need this technology? This technology needs to be developed to grow the digital economy. Do they come with regulations that favor the startup? I've heard of the startup bill, but this is not something that has been taken up in a couple of countries. Can startups have an ecosystem in which they can be able to develop, build the business tools that are going to drive this startup? And most importantly, especially since we're talking about the digital, can they have intellectual property, which is something very, very expensive in the beginning of building the businesses, as support that comes within incubation or in any other policy, especially in the early stages? So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Pauline, very much for bringing up here today the challenges that businesses are facing in Africa. Very good, thank you so much. And now I'll give the floor to our last special invitee, who is Ms. Silvana Fumega, Director, Global Data Barometer in Buenos Aires, Argentina.
Hi, hello. I don't know if you can hear me properly, hopefully. First of all, thank you so much for the invitation. It's a pleasure and an honor to share this discussion with all of you. As you might imagine, it's always difficult to be the last in a long list of distinguished speakers, but I still like to share a few points. Reflecting on the 20 years in the WSIS and the subsequent decades since its first review, we can see how the landscape of the digital economy has been significantly shaped by advancement in information technology and consequently in access to data and the possibility to use it. To address the developments and challenges of this period and to keep committing to a vision of build a people-centered, inclusive, and development-oriented information society, several key factors and areas of focus emerge that I'd like to highlight. First of all, SDGs. ICT and data keep playing a crucial role in advancing the SDGs. Its integration into areas like education, healthcare, and economic development has been and will be key in moving forward. Leveraging ICT for sustainable growth remains a critical agenda. In that sense, we need to keep working on better data to support evidence-based decision-making and strengthen local capacities. Increase internet penetration, as was already mentioned, especially in developing countries, has allowed more people to access different platforms and more data. However, the digital divide still exists and is a problem. In terms of responsible AI, the growing influence of AI needs a responsible approach. Ensuring AI systems that are transparent, equitable, and free of biases is key. This includes a strong commitment to human rights and ethical considerations in AI development and implementation as well. Also, we need to think about data production processes. Now more than ever, we need an inclusive and multi-stakeholder involvement in its governance arrangement, ensuring the participation of developing countries and not just as data providers. Adding to that, the rise of major technology companies has led to concerns over market dominance. Addressing this requires implementing policies and practices that contribute to the development of ICT, including fostering competition, creating transparent regulatory systems, and encouraging public-private partnerships. In this sense, data sharing frameworks, such as data pools and data trusts, need to keep developed and implemented. There is still a lot of room for improvement and a lot of work to be done if we want the advancements of ICT, not only to be used for profit, but also to solve public problems. Also, for open data to be effectively foster the growth of digital economy, it must be relevant, accurate, and of high quality. Poor quality data can lead to inefficiencies and misinformation. As more data is being used and generated, privacy and security concerns grow. Ensuring the protection of personal data while promoting open data initiatives is key. They go hand in hand and both need to be promoted and implemented. In terms of data protection and privacy, the significance of data privacy and security in the digital world cannot be overstated. Robust data protection frameworks are essential, especially in light of frequent data breaches and privacy concerns. Effective enforcement of these frameworks is as important as their existence. And according to the first edition of the Global Data Barometer, it can be said that while there is a growing presence of data protection laws and open data policies, there is still significant gaps in the enforcement of these frameworks. Despite technological advancement, the digital divide remains a challenge, as I already mentioned, and also the other speakers already mentioned as well. Promoting inclusivity in ICT access, particularly in marginalized and undeserved communities, is essential for equitable development. In that same line, diversity in data production is also crucial to avoid biases and to ensure a representative digital economy. 10 years after the first review, we still need to work on emphasizing connectivity as an essential enabler of sustainable development. Lastly, a commitment to ethical and inclusive practices in data use and AI is vital. This will only not foster innovation, but ensure a social, responsible digital marketplace. Just to sum up, the evolution of the digital economy is rapid and it comes with growing challenges in terms of inclusivity, ethics, and responsible practices. Addressing these challenges posed by all the changes requires a multifaceted approach involving governments, private sector, civil society, and international organizations. Policies and initiatives need to focus on not only expanding access, but also ensuring that the benefits of the digital economy are equitable and shared across all segments of society. Once again, thank you for the invitation and looking forward to all the comments.
Thank you very much, Ms. Fumega, for raising all the data questions and concerns and importance of data policy. And now, it brings us to the open discussion segment for our event today. I now invite all the participants to feel free to contribute with your views, thoughts, and suggestions on the way forward. Each speaker will have 2 minutes. And I have online Mr. Cedric Wadols from UNESCO. So over to you. So you have 2 minutes, sir. Thank you very much. Mr. Cedric Watchholes? Not here? Well, so we move to Ms. Shrija Sen, IT for Change.
Thank you, Chair.
I think she's here.
Thank you, Chair. I'm here.
Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity to present our inputs. Hello, everyone. I'm Shrija, speaking on behalf of IT for Change, an NGO based in India that works on the intersection of digital rights, social justice, and equity. In the run-up to the WSIS Plus 20 review, it is imperative to ask ourselves if the principles espoused at the WSIS have been fulfilled. Are we a people-centered information society? Are we using technology as a tool to enhance productivity, generate economic growth, job creation, and employability? Is there the right kind of focus on the marginal groups in relation to technology? Is there actual harmonious, fair, and equitable development for all? The answer, unfortunately, is no. The capital-driven platform economy has taken the information society into the hands of a few who are based primarily in the US and China, and has failed to provide safeguards for numerous harms: online violence, race to the bottom labor policies, predictive analysis leading to loss of choice, loss of privacy, discrimination, to name a few. We have seen trade forums being used to determine unrestricted data access and limiting source code and transparency provisions. Intellectual property regimes have been used to create knowledge monopolies, increasing entry barriers for newer entrants, especially those in the global south. Infrastructure capabilities are held by big tech corporations, forcing smaller players to use these to even begin engaging with the digital economy. This brings us to the third question that we are discussing today, that is what steps to take in order to advance international cooperation to leverage emerging technology for sustainable development. First, we need to understand that for a vision of a common information society, the inequalities within the system must be acknowledged.
You have 10 seconds, please. Sorry.
I have just 3 questions and I will get done. Those who are in control, those who control tech must be ready to cede their digital intelligence to those who provide the data to enable equitable benefit sharing. Data governance must happen not just for privacy and data protection, but also for regulating and improving public welfare systems. These must be accompanied with suitable amendments to IP law, competition law, labor law, trade, taxation, and investment regimes. And finally, data infrastructures are a must for developing countries, and who should be able to set them up for themselves. Public financing systems need to be at the center of these processes, like the digital development tax proposed by the UN Secretary General in his 2021 report, Our Common Agenda. In case there are private partnerships in building these infrastructures, there needs to be adequate accountability measures. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now I move to Ms. Radka Sibyl from the European Union. 2 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, for this opportunity to share lessons from the business implementation. The EU continues to support the principles of the Tunis Agenda, which almost 2 decades ago set the groundwork for our current multi-stakeholder internet governance model that still supports our decisions today. We cannot appreciate the internet's unprecedented success without recognizing the vital role of the WSIS and of the multi-stakeholder model that it has advocated. And here, we would like to reiterate the role of the Internet Governance Forum, which is living proof that this cooperative approach works. Its value stems from ensuring that voices from governance, civil society, technical community, academia, and the private sector are heard. It is critical that the IGF strengthens its role and evolves into an ever more impactful and inclusive model. The EU also strongly supports an ambitious approach towards keeping human rights as the foundation of an open, free, and secure online space based on human-centric digitalization. And this vision aligns fully with the SDGs. Swifter progress on the SDGs goes hand in hand with our commitment to a more inclusive digital future and to bridging the digital divides. And in this regard, the EU and its member states are working hard through the Global Gateway as Team Europe to deploy digital networks and infrastructures worldwide. So as we approach WSIS Plus 20, we have a golden opportunity to bolster our foundational and multi-stakeholder principles and foster an inclusive, open, and sustainable digital environment for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, European Union, and thanks for sticking to the 2 minutes, even less, 1 minute and a half. And now I'll give the floor to Mr. Sean Oshiushuru.
Not bad.
It's from an NGO, and please present yourself because I don't know which NGO.
Sean O'Shukru, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the Global Digital Justice Forum, which is a group of 15 international civil society organisations that's come together to build a South perspective on digital technologies and platforms. As we see it, the key questions we face right now are first, whether the huge potential of the digital, currently going disproportionately to a small number of platform corporations, can truly be harnessed for the wider public good, including in the South. And second, whether the increasingly obvious dangers, including to democratic institutions and to economic inequalities, can be tackled effectively. We certainly believe that the WSIS Plus 20 has the potential to play a key role here, and we intend to engage with the process at every stage. So I want to raise just a couple of points that we would see that would be priorities. First, in line with the July 21 ECOSOC decision, we believe that the second strand of the Tunis Agenda, enhanced cooperation, which hasn't been mentioned here at all, which according to ECOSOC is distinct and complementary, very much complementary to the IGF, should be reaffirmed and reopened among the key stakeholders and given a prominent position. The reason is we believe this approach probably offers the best and most democratic institutional mechanisms for many countries in the South to have their voices heard. Second, we hope the WSIS will build towards a binding global governance framework build towards, it can't deliver it. We know that in relation to digital human rights. That can include, for instance, no-go areas for data market forces in certain areas, certain key areas of human rights. Second, a right to freedom from commercial surveillance and personal profiling as integral components of the right to privacy. And third, the right of communities to steward their data resources as an integral part of their economic, social and cultural rights. Third point I want to make is the digital development tax to develop a digital solidarity fund is recommended by the UN Secretary General with compulsory contributions from dominant players is essential to building public digital infrastructure in developing countries, which is in turn a prerequisite for low and middle income countries, especially to build, exploit and control their own data resources and digital destinies. And I think Ms. Kariuki was talking about this in very practical terms, in terms of the public infrastructure that's needed for that. Fourth, it's now vital to compel interoperability for digital platforms and plural digital media. I think the EU has been recognising this, but many other jurisdictions as well, based on common protocols, data structures and AI as a key factor in ensuring information integrity and plural credible media. And finally, public investment is essential to promote alternative platforms, data and AI models rooted in values of local accountability, women's participation and ecological sustainability. We know there are many hurdles to these, of course. We hope to come up with practical and usable solutions and suggestions and not just throw these out as nice, desirable things. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shukru. And now I will give the floor to Ms. Anna Walsh from Austria. And please, everybody, please take attention to the 2 minutes limit.
Thank you. Overall, we believe the WSIS Declaration and action lines have proven a solid basis for the UN's work on digital transformation and that they are still highly relevant. Action lines such as e-education, e-health, etc. are also important goals in terms of reaching the 2030 agenda. We believe that it is essential to not exclusively focus on new and maybe fancy high-tech topics while the achievement of traditional goals continues to lag behind. At the same time, those new issues that have arisen in the last 20 years should be addressed during the review. Just to name a few. First, but still relevant, and better understood than 20 years ago, the closing of different digital divides that must go beyond the question of infrastructure and access and include various barriers to meaningful, self-determined online participation. Second, the environmental impact of the digital transformation needs to be addressed in any new agenda. Third, data governance. We consider that the time has come to reflect on common principles that aim at creating public value for the common good for sustainable development nationally, regionally and globally. And finally, AI and other emerging technologies. The developments in these areas call for a proactive and anticipatory approach to digital and tech governments. Moving forward, we should avoid mistakes from the past, and AI is an example, when the international community failed to deal with the effects and governance of new technologies in time and holistically, thus disregarding the common good. Institutional, architecture-wise, we consider that it is finally time to institutionalize a strengthened IGF, Internet Governance Forum Plus. Furthermore, we today have evidence about the risks of human rights, democracy and the rule of law that come with the digital transformation that we did not have 20 years ago. These should be addressed by mainstreaming a human-centric and human rights-based approach to the digital transformation. Finally, a renewed WSIS action plan should include baselines and indicators that will allow to measure progress and better adjust the action lines in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna. So now I'll give the floor to Mr. Dayu Nivalu. Oh my God.
Thank you very much. It's not my name, just I found this.
And please introduce yourself.
Thank you. My name is Dr. Maktar Sek. I'm the Chief of Technology and Innovation at the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. Let's go back 20 years behind to see what the progress made by the WSIS for Africa. In 2005, in Africa, we have 2.6% access internet. In 22, 37%. Mobile penetration, 9.1% in 2005. Today, more than 80%. On the internet ecosystem, the lady from Kenya highlighted the progress made in Kenya in this ecosystem. Now we have 600 incubators in the continent. And Kenya is among the big four in the continent in development of startup. It is a very positive progress of VCs, but there are some challenges also. We are now 63% of our population are offline. We have 500 million without any legal form of identity. We have a lot of concern of cyber security, 10% of our GDP. Now, for VC's review plus 20, we need to focus on key questions. So we agree all VCs has a positive impact to bridge the digital divide. It is a focus in 2005. Now let's focus for Africa. We focus on four questions for the VCs plus 20 review. First, are VCs action line integrate this emerging trend, like this artificial intelligence and generative blockchain technology? It is something we have to look at carefully. Second, how can we improve the VC's process in implementing, also in measuring the target? It is something we have to look at. Third, how can VCs can be better aligned with the SDG? We all agree VCs contribute to the achievement of the SDG, but we need to better align this. Four, I'm going to conclude. It is how we can now review or revamp VCs in line with the GDC. It is some question we are now thinking in Africa, and we are going to organize our VCs plus 20 review next year in Victoria Falls, and I think all UN regional commission will do the same. And we are going to work closely with ITU, UNCTAD, and as a stakeholder on this VCs plus 20. But in general, VCs plus 20, VCs has a positive impact.
It's almost three minutes. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, madam.
Thank you. So now I will give the floor to Bulgaria. And Veni, please present yourself.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Veni Markovsky. I'm helping the Bulgarian mission currently today for this very interesting event. Thanks for everyone for what you were saying. I just wanted to mention 4 points. First, the Bulgarian Foreign Minister, Maria Gabriel, in September addressed the high-level ministerial meeting at the United Nations and reconfirmed the support of the country for the multi-stakeholder approach and the integrity of the internet. Sadly, the people who were listening to the interpretation might have missed that, as she spoke in French, and neither the English nor the Russian channels translated it. I hope I'm speaking slow enough for the interpreters here so that they can translate properly in the UN languages. In this room, there are several people who have been part of the WISIS since before the first phase, actually. Mr. Markus Kummer is sitting right behind me, helped create the working group on internet governance. And I'm sure he can confirm what our view is, that there has been huge progress since 2003. For example, the WISIS plus 10 outcome document updated the Tunis agenda in a very positive way, and we hope that the WISIS plus 20 outcome document will do the same, taking into account the developments from the last 10 years, some of which the panelists were talking about. And last, it's good to see the overwhelming support for the IGF, and we hope it will be extended for another 10 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now I'll give the floor to a remote participant, Mr. Nigel Hickinson from UK.
Okay, maybe he's not there.
So, wrong information, it seems like. Well, maybe I will have Miss Maria Usan from UK.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to say a few words and adding to the contributions that we made during the CSTD intersessional meeting in Lisbon last month. As has been said by many people today, over the last 20 years, the internet and digital technologies have transformed the way society works, and there have been many achievements across regions, countries, and sectors. And now, as we get closer to the review of the WSIS outcomes in 2025, reflecting and taking stock of what has worked well and what hasn't, and what we can do to ensure effective and open governance of the internet for all is vitally important. The WSIS action lines are evolving tools that can be used to initiate and guide action that ensures the internet is available, accessible, and beneficial for everybody. This was true in 2005, and it's still true today. And to do this, I think there are several things that we believe we can focus on in particular. Firstly, connectivity, reducing and removing the gap between those with affordable and reliable connectivity and those without, to give everybody the opportunity to benefit from internet access and emerging technologies in order to connect with them and use them to innovate. Secondly, infrastructure, as has been mentioned before. This is all about maintaining and reinforcing the infrastructure needed to sustain and ensure that there is reliable internet around the world, something that's essential for the running of essential systems and the development of new ideas. And thirdly, inclusivity, that is ensuring that everybody is able to contribute to the governance and development of the internet, for example, through the Internet Governance Forum, and ensuring that the internet is also developed in a way that considers inclusion, which is why things like universal acceptance and internationalized domain names are so important. As I've just said at the start, the WSIS review is an important opportunity to do more and build on the successes, and we look forward to engaging positively through the multi-stakeholder process and other UN agencies through mechanisms like the UN high-level track at the WSIS Forum in 2024. Thank you very much to the CSTD Secretariat for the work that you're taking forward on the review, and thank you also to the IGF Secretariat, the ITU, and also to UNESCO for giving stakeholders the opportunity to contribute to this very important process. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maria. And now I'll give the floor to Indonesia. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you. Indonesia extends our sincere gratitude for convening this open consultation on WSIS 20 for the Secretariat and like the appreciations to make this event possible. Thank you, Excellency Ambassador Bakhtobi, Dr. Samika, Ms. Neves, Mr. Ikhwan, Ms. Abdullah, Mr. Melia, Ms. Karyuki, and all the panelists. The review of WSIS 20 is indeed come in a critical juncture when the world comes in discussion on digital governance today. Indonesia has observed with a great interest how WSIS has been a pivotal catalyst in harnessing ICT to advance the SDGs within our nations. The annual WSIS prizes have become the integral component of our digital transformation journey, reflecting our commitment to integrating technology into the fabric of societal progresses. In this case, Indonesia remains steadfast in its support of the Tunis Agenda, the forthcoming WSIS 20 review, and as well as the Internet Governance Forum. We recognize this platform as critical in shaping a collaborative and forward-thinking digital landscape. We also hope that the IGF will be renewed the mandate in the next upcoming years. We are confident that this conversation on emerging technologies must continue within these forums, fostering the same level of adaptability and forward-thinking that characterize WSIS and the IGF. Reflecting the 3-year negotiation process of Tunis Agenda, which eventually culminated in the creation of WSIS and the IGF, Indonesia is very enthusiastic about participating in more dynamic negotiations and making substantive contributions to the Global Digital Compact. It is our firm belief that the governance processes of GDC should be inherently inclusive, placing a strong emphasis on the perspective and needs of the Global South to ensure an equitable and balanced future for all, as what happened in WSIS 20. As we embark on this journey, Indonesia is committed to being an active participant and contributor and upholding the values of inclusivity, sustainability, and shared progress for all Global South countries. Thank you so much, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Indonesia. And now I'll give the floor to Peter Major from Hungary. And I would like to know if there is anyone that would like to raise his voice during this open consultation. So it seems not to be the case. So Peter Major from Hungary, please.
Thank you, Anna. Madam Chair, I have been listening very carefully to the interventions, and I have come to some conclusions. I have heard that it is very desirable to align the WSIS to SDGs. I think this is extremely important. I think it is also important to have indicators. In addition to what we have on connectivity, gender inequality, we have to measure the progress, and we have to see clearly where we are. And I have heard also, and I can also support that view, that the mandate of RGF and WSIS Forum should be extended. And at the same time, I would call your attention to the fact that the mandate of the CSTD in this aspect should be extended. I have heard yesterday during the consultation on GDC that there is a gap, a missing link between these forums and the political forums in the UN. So probably we have to establish some kind of link. And I propose to regularly review the emerging issues during the RGF and take input from regional RGFs and allocate tasks to the RGF working groups, policy networks, which is happening already, and make recommendations accordingly and forward them to the CSTD. The leadership panel of the RGF also should be involved to provide guidance to the work. And as a follow-up, the CSTD should discuss the fact and factually include emerging issues in resolutions. And finally, I think we should revise from time to time the WSIS framework itself and update as needed. For instance, some kind of conference, a world conference. We may have plenty of examples. For instance, I take the World Radio Communication Conference, which is doing the update regularly on the radio regulations. I really welcome the GDC outcomes, or the possible outcomes, which should be considered in our review of the WSIS Plus 20 as an input and hopefully guidelines. And finally, I think we have to consider our work as well, that the CSTD review and the ECOSOC resolution, which we are drafting each year, should be more relevant. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter, very much. So in the absence of any further interventions or questions, I would like to thank all the special invitees for having set in the scene for today's discussion, and to extend my heartfelt gratitude to each of you that allocate some time to be here today. I would like to thank for your active and valuable participation throughout the session, and ask if you could share with us the statements that you read. All these discussions will have a direct impact on our lives. So your contributions have greatly enriched our discussions, and with that, I declare the second open consultation on the WSIS Plus 20 closed.